The morning sun cast long shadows across the research outpost's landing pad as Dr. Tom Miller sipped his coffee. It was another quiet day on border world K-32, or at least it should have been. The peace was shattered by the blaring of proximity alarms. Unknown vessel approaching, size class, military carrier, announced the outpost's AI through the speakers. Tom nearly spilled his coffee as he rushed to the command center. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the massive ship descending from the clouds, its dark hull blocking out the sun. Officer Jack Stone was already at his station, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. "They're not responding to standard greeting protocols," he reported, fingers dancing across the control panel. "And their weapon systems are powered up." "Great," Tom muttered. "Just what we needed on sample collection day." He straightened his jacket and cleared his throat. As the outpost's lead scientist and diplomatic officer, first contact situations fell squarely on his shoulders. The alien ship settled into a hover about 50 meters above the ground, its engines kicking up clouds of the red dust that covered everything on K-32. A beam of light shot down from its belly, and a figure materialized on the landing pad. Tom recognized the species from the briefing files. A militant hegemony commander, standing nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent scales that shifted colors in the sunlight. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as it surveyed the outpost. "This is Commander Talvector of the Hegemony Border Fleet," the alien's voice boomed through the translation matrix. "You are in violation of contested space regulations. Withdraw immediately." Tom stepped out onto the landing pad, hands raised in the universal gesture of peace. "Commander, welcome to Research Outpost Epsilon. I'm Dr. Tom Miller. There must be some mistake. We have all the proper permits from the Galactic Council for our research here." The commander's scales flickered to a deep red. "The Council's authority is not recognized in this sector. This is your final warning. Remove your presence from this world, or face the consequences." "Now hold on," Tom said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We're just a scientific outpost. We're studying the local flora for potential medical applications. Our work could benefit both our species." Talvector's upper set of eyes narrowed. "You leave me no choice, human, if you will not leave willingly." He raised a device that looked like a ceremonial staff and struck it against the ground. "Then you will flee in terror when we unleash our most fearsome beast." There was a moment of silence. Tom glanced back at the command center where Jack was watching through the window. The security chief just shrugged. "I'm sorry," Tom said, turning back to the commander. "Did you say beast?" "Indeed." Talvector's scales now pulse with patterns of red and gold. "The most terrifying creature from your own world, trained to be even deadlier by our combat masters. A monster that will make your warriors tremble." Tom tried to keep his diplomatic composure, but curiosity got the better of him. "What kind of beast are we talking about exactly?" "You dare to mock the might of the hegemony." Talvector raised all 4 arms in what was probably supposed to be an intimidating gesture. "Very well. You have 1 planetary rotation to reconsider. When I return, I will bring with me a horror from your own legends, a beast so fierce that even our bravest warriors approach it with caution." With that, the commander disappeared in another flash of light. The ship's engines roared, and it ascended back into the clouds, leaving only swirling dust in its wake. Jack emerged from the command center, coming to stand beside Tom. "Well, that was dramatic. Should we be worried?" Tom watched the dust settle on his boots. "Honestly, I'm more curious than concerned. What do you think they consider a terrifying beast from Earth?" "Knowing our luck," Jack said with a grin. "Probably something completely unexpected. Want to bet on it?" "No bet," Tom replied, finally allowing himself to smile. "But I get the feeling tomorrow is going to be very interesting." As they walked back to the command center, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something obvious. Whatever this beast turned out to be, at least it would break up the monotony of their regular research routine. He just hoped it wouldn't actually eat anyone. The paperwork for that would be terrible. 24 hours had passed since Commander Talvector's dramatic exit, and the research outpost was buzzing with anticipation. Dr. Tom Miller had called all non-essential personnel inside, though most of them were now pressed against the windows, eager to see what would happen next. Alien vessel approaching. The AI announced, right on schedule. Same signature as yesterday. This time, the hegemony ship wasn't alone. A smaller vessel followed behind it, its hull covered in what looked like reinforced containment panels. Tom stood on the landing pad with Jack Stone and 2 security officers, all of them squinting against the morning sun. "Whatever's in that transport must be pretty special," Jack commented, adjusting his uniform collar. "Look at all those safety markings." The ships descended together, creating twin dust storms on the landing pad. The same beam of light appeared, and Commander Talvector materialized, this time accompanied by 4 guards in heavy armor. Their scales shifted in synchronized patterns of deep purple and black. "Human." Talvector's voice carried across the pad. "Have you reconsidered your position?" Tom stepped forward, trying to look appropriately diplomatic. "Commander, we welcome you back. But as I explained yesterday, we have all the proper permits for our research here." "Then you leave us no choice." The commander raised his staff, and his guards moved into formation around him. "Bring forth the beast." The smaller ship's rear doors began to open with a theatrical hiss of hydraulics. Fog rolled out from the interior, clearly for dramatic effect. Tom heard several of the research staff gasp from behind the windows. 2 more alien guards emerged, carefully guiding a large containment unit between them. The unit was made of some kind of transparent material, reinforced with glowing energy fields. Inside, a dark shape moved. "Behold," Talvector proclaimed, his scales now flashing with pride. "The most feared creature from your own world, enhanced by our combat masters. Even now, it must be contained by our strongest force fields." Tom exchanged glances with Jack. The security chief's hand rested casually on his stunner, but his expression showed more curiosity than concern. The containment unit was positioned in the center of the landing pad. The fog had cleared enough now that they could almost make out what was inside. Something was definitely moving around in there, but it didn't seem particularly large. In fact, Talvector continued, building up to his big moment. "This beast is so terrifying that we must prepare you for its unveiling. Our historical records speak of the devastation these creatures brought to ancient worlds. Their loyalty, once earned, is unshakable. Their jaws can crush bones. Their speed is unmatched. Their intelligence makes them perfect weapons." One of the junior researchers whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Is that wagging I see in there?" Tom had to bite his lip to keep from smiling. He was starting to have a pretty good idea of what the alien's beast might be. "Commander," he said carefully, "before you unveil this fearsome creature, might I ask where you acquired it?" Talvector's scales rippled with smugness. "Our scouts found it at one of your military training facilities. It was already being conditioned for combat. Proof that even humans recognize the terrible potential of these monsters." Jack coughed into his hand, poorly hiding a chuckle. "Sir," he said to Tom, "I think I know what we're dealing with. Should I?" "Not yet," Tom replied quietly. "Let's see this through." He turned back to the commander. "Very well, we're prepared. Show us this terrible beast." Talvector raised all 4 arms dramatically. "Release the force fields. Let them witness true terror." The energy fields around the containment unit flickered and died. The transparent panels slid apart with a soft whoosh. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a happy bark, a German shepherd bounded out of the container, tail wagging furiously. The alien guards tensed, weapons raised. But their fearsome beast was too busy sniffing the ground excitedly and looking around at all the new people with bright, intelligent eyes. "That's your terror weapon?" Jack asked, no longer bothering to hide his grin. "Commander, I think we need to have a talk about Earth's K-9 units. Commander Talvector watched in horror as his fearsome weapon trotted around the landing pad, Tom lolling out happily. The German Shepherd, wearing a tactical vest with Rex printed on the side, seemed more interested in exploring its new surroundings than striking terror into anyone's heart. "I don't understand," Talvector said, his scales shifting to a confused yellow-green. "Why aren't you running in fear? This is one of your most elite military units." Tom took a careful step forward. "Commander, may I approach the, beast?" "You dare." The alien commander's scales flickered rapidly. "It has been specially trained to." Rex chose that moment to sit down and scratch behind his ear with a back leg. "Oh, for heaven's sake," Jack muttered, then whistled sharply. Rex's ears perked up immediately, and he bounded over to the security chief, sitting perfectly at attention. "Good boy." "Who's a good boy?" The alien guards raised their weapons in alarm as Jack knelt down and started scratching Rex behind the ears. The dog's tail wagged so hard his whole body wiggled. "Stop this at once," Talvector demanded. "You're disrupting its combat programming." Tom cleared his throat. "Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Rex here is indeed a military working dog, but, well, dogs aren't exactly the terrifying monsters you seem to think they are." As if to prove his point, Rex flopped over, offering his belly for scratches. Several of the research staff had ventured out of the building now, and Rex was becoming the center of attention. "Look at his paws. They're huge." One researcher cooed. "He's so fluffy," another added. Talvector's guards looked increasingly uncertain, their weapons wavering. One of them jumped when Rex barked playfully at a butterfly. But our historical records," Talvector protested. "The legends speak of these creatures hunting in packs, bringing down prey many times their size, of their unwavering loyalty being used in warfare, of their ability to track targets across vast distances." "Well, that's all technically true," Tom admitted. "Dogs are descendants of wolves, and they're incredible hunters. They're also loyal, brave, and have amazing senses. But, Commander, that's only part of the story." Jack had produced a tennis ball from somewhere. Rex's eyes locked onto it with laser focus. "See, humans and dogs have been partners for thousands of years," Tom continued. "They're not just hunting companions or military allies. They're our friends, our family members. Yes, they can be fierce protectors when needed, but they're also—" He gestured at Rex, who was now playing an enthusiastic game of fetch with Jack and a growing crowd of delighted researchers. "Like this?" Talvector asked weakly. "Exactly like this." Tom smiled. "In fact, their loyalty and pack instincts are what make them such good companions. They don't serve us through fear or programming. They work with us because they want to, because we understand each other." One of the alien guards had lowered their weapon completely, head tilted in fascination. "Commander, the beast, the dog, it appears to be performing some kind of ritualistic bonding behavior with the humans." "That's called playing fetch," Tom explained. "It's a game. Dogs love to play almost as much as they love to work. Would you like to try?" The guard looked at Talvector uncertainly. The commander's scales had settled into a more thoughtful blue-green color. "This cannot be right," Talvector muttered. "Our entire psychological warfare strategy was based on—" He stopped, watching as Rex brought the tennis ball back to Jack, dropped it perfectly at his feet, and waited patiently for another throw. "You know," Tom said carefully, "if you'd like to learn more about Earth dogs, we'd be happy to teach you. Rex here seems friendly enough, and he's clearly well trained. Maybe we could start with something simple, like a handshake." Talvector stared at Rex, who had noticed the attention and was now looking at the commander with bright, intelligent eyes and a gently wagging tail. "A handshake?" the commander asked, his voice uncertain for the first time since he arrived. Tom grinned. Sometimes the best diplomatic breakthroughs came from the most unexpected places, or in this case, from a friendly German shepherd with a tennis ball and a wagging tail. Commander Talvector sat stiffly in the outpost's meeting room, his 4 eyes fixed on Rex, who was lying calmly at Jack's feet. The commander's guards stood nervously by the walls, their scales shifting between shades of uncertainty. "Perhaps," Tom said, sliding a cup of coffee across the table, "you could tell us why you thought Rex would frighten us so much." The commander's scales rippled with embarrassment. "In our history, there are stories, legends of creatures much like this one. We call them shadow stalkers. They hunted our ancestors in packs during the long night of our home world." "Ah," Tom nodded thoughtfully. "That explains the misunderstanding. Many Earth cultures had similar fears of wolves. That's what dogs descended from. But we learned to work together, to become partners." Rex's ears perked up at a sound outside. He lifted his head, alert but calm. One of the alien guards flinched. "You see," Talvector pointed, "even now it senses something we cannot. Just like the stories say." Jack smiled, reaching down to pat Rex's head. "That's because dogs have amazing senses. But, Commander, that's exactly why they make such good partners. Rex here isn't just trained to fight. He's trained to protect, to search and rescue, to detect dangers, and even to comfort people." Comfort. All 4 of the commander's eyes blinked in sequence. "But its teeth, its speed, its hunting instincts. Would you like a demonstration?" Tom asked. "Something that isn't about fighting or hunting." Talvector's scales shifted to a curious blue tone. "What kind of demonstration?" Jack pulled out a small bag. Rex immediately sat up, fully focused but still perfectly controlled. "These are training samples," Jack explained. "They're harmless, but they simulate different scents we might need Rex to find, like people trapped in rubble after a disaster." He handed one sample to Tom, who walked to the other side of the room and tucked it behind a cabinet. Rex watched patiently, tail wagging slightly. "Now," Jack said, "Rex will show you how he uses those hunting instincts you mentioned to save lives." He turned to the dog. "Rex, search." The German shepherd sprang into action, nose working efficiently as he quartered the room. The alien guards tensed, but Rex ignored them completely, focused entirely on his task. Within seconds, he sat perfectly still in front of the cabinet, looking back at Jack. "Good boy," Jack praised. Rex's tail wagged harder, but he stayed in position. "See, he's found it, but he's not attacking. He's letting us know where to look. This same behavior could help us find survivors in an emergency." "Fascinating," one of the guards whispered. Their scales had taken on the same curious blue as their commanders. "That's not all," Tom added. "Rex, come here." The dog trotted over obediently. "Commander, would you like to try giving him a treat?" Talvector's scales flushed purple with alarm. "Put food near those teeth." "I don't think." Rex knows to be gentle, Jack assured him. "Here, I'll show you." He placed a small dog treat in the commander's upper right hand. "Hold it flat, like this. Good. Now, Rex." Rex approached slowly, his movements deliberate and calm. With exquisite gentleness, he took the treat from Talvector's hand. The commander stared in amazement at his unharmed fingers. "It didn't bite me," he said in wonder, "even though it could have." "That's trust," Tom explained. "Dogs understand friendship, loyalty, and gentleness just as well as they understand hunting and protecting. Maybe even better." Talvector was quiet for a long moment, watching Rex return to his spot by Jack's feet. "Perhaps," he said finally, "we have been too quick to judge based on old fears. These dogs, they are more complex than our legends suggested." "Most things are," Tom agreed, "when we take the time to understand them." Outside the meeting room window, the red sun of K32 was setting, casting long shadows across the landing pad. But inside, the shadows of ancient fears were beginning to fade in the light of new understanding. Rex yawned and stretched out for a nap, looking about as threatening as a stuffed toy. One of the guards actually chuckled, then quickly tried to hide it with a cough. The peaceful moment in the meeting room was shattered by a piercing alarm. Rex jumped to his feet, ears forward, hackles raised. This time, his posture wasn't playful at all. Warning, the outpost's AI announced. Multiple large life forms detected approaching the perimeter, matching signatures to known hostile wildlife. Class 3 threat level. Tom rushed to the monitoring station, pulling up the external cameras. Oh, not good. Really not good. What is it? Tal Vector asked, his scales shifting to alert orange. Sand stalkers, Tom said grimly. Local predators. They usually hunt alone, but sometimes when the weather changes they form packs and... He stopped as Rex let out a low growl, eyes fixed on the outer wall. Jack was already moving. How many? Sensors showed 12, the AI reported, approaching from multiple directions. Through the windows, they could see dark shapes moving in the gathering dusk. Each one was the size of a small car, with too many legs and armor-plated skin. The setting sun glinted off their spiny backs. We need to get to the secure area, Tom said. Our defense turrets can handle one or two, but this many. A loud crash from outside cut him off. One of the creatures had slammed into the perimeter fence, testing it. The energy barrier flickered. Your weapons, Tal Vector said quickly. Will they work against these things? Standard stunners don't do much, Jack replied, checking his gear. Their hide's too thick. We'd need heavy weapons, but those could damage the outpost's sensitive equipment. Rex barked sharply, drawing everyone's attention. His whole body was tense, but his training kept him steady, waiting for commands. Commander, Jack said suddenly, your ship has better shields than our outpost. If we could get everyone there. Another crash, harder this time. The fence's energy field sparked dangerously. Agreed, Tal Vector said, his scales now a determined red. But the landing pad is on the other side of the compound. We have to cross open ground. Tom looked at the security feeds again. The sand stalkers were circling, getting bolder. Their long, segmented bodies rippled as they moved, testing the fence at different points. One reared up, revealing rows of hooked claws underneath. Perimeter breach imminent, the AI warned. East section compromised. We need a distraction, Jack said. Something to split their attention while we evacuate. He looked at Rex, then at Tom. Sir? Tom nodded grimly. Do it. Jack turned to Rex, switching to a commanding tone. Rex, guard mode. Protect group. Rex's entire demeanor changed. The friendly, playful dog was gone, replaced by a focused working animal. He moved to the door, alert and ready. Commander, Tom said quickly, I know this may be hard to believe after everything today, but right now that beast of yours might be our best chance. Rex can smell them coming, hear them moving. He can help us find a safe path. Tal Vector looked at Rex, then at the security feed showing the creatures outside. His scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep, determined purple. My guards will provide covering fire, he said, but we must move quickly. Another crash, followed by the screech of tearing metal. Through the windows, they could see one of the sand stalkers had breached the outer fence. Its segmented body writhed as it pushed through, followed by another and another. All personnel, Tom announced over the outpost comm, emergency evacuation. Proceed to emergency rally points. This is not a drill. Rex let out another low growl as the first sand stalker's shadow passed by the window, but he held his position, waiting for commands, ready to protect his expanded pack, humans and aliens alike. Well, Commander, Tom said, checking his own stunner, still think dogs are just mindless beasts. Tal Vector's scales flickered with what might have been amusement, despite the danger. Let us hope your faith in this partnership is well placed, Dr. Miller. Outside, the sand stalkers' hunting cries echoed across the compound. The real test of trust between species was about to begin. The Sandstalkers' cries echoed through the darkening compound as the mixed group of humans and aliens moved carefully between buildings. Rex led the way, his nose working constantly, guiding them away from danger. 3 contacts ahead, Jack whispered, reading signals from his handheld scanner. Rex already knew. Look at his ears. Indeed, the German shepherd had stopped, pointing his body slightly to the left, suggesting an alternate route. Commander Telvector's scales shifted to an impressed blue-green. The beast, I mean Rex, he can smell them even through the walls, he asked quietly. That's right, Tom replied. Dogs have about 40 times better smell than humans. They can even detect changes in human emotions through scent. As if to prove the point, Rex turned his head and gave a soft whine, looking at one of the younger researchers who was clearly terrified. The researcher managed a shaky smile. Movement, one of the alien guards hissed. A shadow passed by a window. Something big with too many legs. Rex remained calm but alert, waiting for instructions. Jack made a hand signal. Rex immediately led them down a side corridor, away from the threat. The group followed, trust in the dog's instincts now overriding any previous fears. They were halfway to the landing pad when the power flickered. Emergency lights kicked in, casting everything in a red glow. They've damaged the main power conduit, Tom said grimly. We need to move faster. A crash behind them made everyone jump. One of the Sandstalkers had broken through a wall, its armored segments gleaming in the emergency lighting. Before anyone could react, 2 more crashed through different walls, surrounding them. Formation, Telvector barked. His guards moved with practiced precision, forming a defensive circle around the researchers. But their weapons seemed to just bounce off the creature's armor. Rex moved to the front of the group, his bark now deep and threatening. The Sandstalkers hesitated, not used to prey that stood its ground. Commander, Jack said quickly, your force fields, the ones you used to contain Rex. Do you still have them? Telvector's scales flickered with sudden understanding. Yes, but they're calibrated for Rex's size. They won't hold these monsters. We don't need to hold them. Tom cut in, catching Jack's plan. We just need to push them back. Rex can guide them right into the fields. The commander worked quickly, pulling out the control devices. His guards positioned the portable field generators, creating a corridor of energy. Jack, Tom said, remember that training exercise with the sheep. Jack grinned. Rex, herd mode. The change in the dog was immediate. Rex began moving in precise patterns, his barks sharp and commanding. The Sandstalkers, confused by this small but fierce creature, started backing away from his advances. It's working, one of the alien guards exclaimed, scales turning bright with excitement. They're actually retreating. Working together, Rex and the aliens herded the Sandstalkers into the force field corridor. The creatures hissed and thrashed, but couldn't break through the energy barriers. With a final series of barks, Rex drove them toward the compound's outer gate. Now, Jack commanded. Telvector deactivated the force fields at precisely the right moment. The Sandstalkers, already moving backward, tumbled out through the gate. Rex stood at the threshold, his barks making it clear they weren't welcome back. That, Telvector said, his scales showing patterns no one had seen before, that was not combat programming. That was intelligence, strategy. That was partnership, Tom corrected gently. Rex trusts us, and now he's extended that trust to you and your people. That's worth more than any combat programming. They watched as Rex did a final check of the area before trotting back to the group, tail held high. Several of the alien guards actually reached down to pat him as he passed. The landing pad is clear, Jack reported, checking his scanner. We should move while we can. As they resumed their evacuation, Commander Telvector fell into step beside Tom. Dr. Miller, when this crisis is over, I believe we need to seriously revise our understanding of Earth's creatures, and perhaps of humans as well. Rex, leading the way once again, wagged his tail as if in agreement. 3 days after the Sand Stalker attack, the research outpost looked very different. Hegemony engineers worked alongside human technicians to repair the damage, while new security measures were being installed, a joint project between both species. In the outpost's main courtyard, Commander Talvector stood watching something that would have been unthinkable just days ago. One of his guards was playing fetch with Rex. "Your aim is improving," Tom said, walking up to join him. "Though Rex doesn't seem to mind when you throw the ball with your lower arms instead of the upper ones." The commander's scales shifted to an amused purple. "He is remarkably adaptable. Yesterday he learned to recognize our warning clicks, even though we don't have the right vocal cords to copy his barks." They watched as Rex brought the ball back to the guard, waiting patiently while the alien figured out which hand to take it with. "The Hegemony Council has reviewed my report," Talvector said after a moment. "They were surprised by my recommendation to establish a permanent joint facility here." "Good surprised or bad surprised?" "Good, I think. Especially after I showed them the footage of Rex coordinating with our forces against the Sandstalkers. They're particularly interested in starting a proper cultural exchange program." Tom smiled as Rex trotted over to them, looking very pleased with himself. "Cultural exchange, you mean?" "Yes." Talvector's scales rippled with excitement. "We would like to learn more about training and working with dogs, and in return, we can offer our advanced security technology to help protect both human and canine partners." "You've come a long way from thinking he was a monster," Tom observed. The commander knelt down, a gesture he would have never considered days ago. And Rex immediately came over to accept a scratch behind the ears. "Sometimes our greatest fears exist only because we don't understand," Talvector said thoughtfully. "My people feared these creatures because of ancient stories. We never stopped to ask why humans chose to work with them instead of fear them." Jack approached, carrying a datapad. "The new security grid is almost ready, sir. And you'll want to see this. The Sandstalkers have moved their hunting grounds 5 kilometers away from the outpost. Looks like Rex made quite an impression on them." "He does that," Tom agreed. "Speaking of impressions, Commander, would you like to do the honors?" Talvector stood, his scales shifting to a formal pattern. "Rex, come." The German shepherd immediately sat at attention in front of him. The commander reached into a pouch with his upper right hand and pulled out something that glinted in the sunlight. In recognition of his service in protecting both human and hegemony personnel, Talvector announced formally, "Rex is hereby awarded the Order of the Four Moons, the highest honor our military can bestow on a non-hegemony ally." He carefully attached the medal to Rex's tactical vest. Rex held perfectly still, as if understanding the importance of the moment. "Additionally," the commander continued, "he is officially designated as our first cross-species training advisor. Though," he added with a flicker of amusement in his scales, "I suspect he has already been teaching us more than we realized." Rex wagged his tail, then looked up at Jack for permission. "Go on," Jack grinned. "You earned it." With a happy bark, Rex bounced up and gave Talvector a proper dog kiss right on his scaly face. The commander, to everyone's surprise and delight, actually laughed. "You know," Tom said, watching as Rex went back to playing with the guards, "when you first arrived threatening to unleash a terrible beast, I don't think anyone expected it would end like this." "Indeed," Talvector agreed, wiping his face but still chuckling. "We came looking for a weapon and found a teacher instead. Though perhaps that is the greatest lesson Rex had to share, that understanding is always more powerful than fear." In the distance, the sun was setting on border world K32, casting long shadows across the outpost. But unlike a few days ago, no one was watching those shadows for monsters anymore. Instead, they were too busy learning from a friendly German shepherd how to be better friends, better partners, and maybe even better people, regardless of how many arms or legs they had.